What's up, everybody, and welcome to your source for everything in the world of video games. It's Inside the Game. That's right, we got it all. We got a great show lined up for you. What do we have? Well, here it is. It's the rundown.
This week, I'm checking out the third DLC installment for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Dawn of Ragnarok. And let me tell you, this one doesn't come cheap. Ubisoft...
I killed this little mini-boss, and I had to seek out its ghost and destroy it with my fist. And I guess that's a huge part of this campaign, is that the Witch Queen has arrived and is somehow yielding the power from the Traveler.
Dude, just boop, 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 boop. Red flags popping up everywhere on this game.
Well, Season 3 might be able to save it, but they're not really hyping Season 3 in a very substantial way at all.
You're hopping these huge distances, you're wall running. Sometimes it gets into insane level of challenge. But that's exactly the kind of game that I appreciate nowadays. I want to be tested, and this will test you. There are certain levels, certain segments where you can pass without doing any sort of combat. You can avoid doing any casualties at all, but that is kind of an extra level of challenge, and it won't last forever.
Alright, so in Hunt Showdown, right now, we have an event, Trader's Moon, that is taking place. And it looks pretty awesome. We have some new legendary skins. Over the last couple months in Fallout 76, we've had a couple huge quality of life improvements that I absolutely need to share with you. So, starting things off,
It's the ultimate Easter egg, a streaming campaign like no other, a mission with the goal to change lives in real life. I challenge you to join me on the main mission, a charity stream campaign to raise funds for Covenant House. From March 7th to April 1st, we welcome everyone to join this fundraising mission to benefit youth who are homeless, trafficked, or at risk. The campaign will feature prizes, giveaways, and big surprises. And on April 2nd, we join forces with some of the biggest content creators and gamers to raise maximum funds. Help us change the game. Can we count you in? Looks like another great episode, so let's get going as Cory kicked things off. The Assassin's Creed, Dawn of Ragnarok.
This week, I'm sharpening my battle axe and jumping back into AC Valhalla for their new DLC, Dawn of Ragnarok.
By invaders of frost and flame. All Father, they have your son. His fate hangs in the balance.
This week, I'm checking out the third DLC installment for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Dawn of Ragnarok. And let me tell you, this one doesn't come cheap. Ubisoft has priced this one at $49.99 Canadian just for the actual DLC. That's the price almost of a full game. That to me was the first hang up here. We're going to get into how I feel about this overall, but as a DLC, Ubisoft has made this available to play as its own standalone game, even if you haven't played the original game. If you have played the game, if you're level 340, you'll be able to jump into the DLC right away, and if you aren't level 340, you can actually take your current character at whatever power level they're at and still start the DLC. They're just going to kind of do a prorated level up for you so you can kind of take care of the enemies, especially when you first get into the DLC. We're looking at about 35 total hours of story, and that's a lot. That's fairly substantial. We're looking at some full title games aren't giving you 35 total hours, so the $50 price tag is somewhat justified. And the reason I say somewhat is because this is still Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We are in that world, whether it be, the world of Svartalheim, like the one we're in now, which is more of a mythological world where we're not kind of in Paris or we're in Ireland. So there is a few things here that you have to take into consideration when you do purchase this DLC, is you are going to be getting some of the same. I mean, we are playing the same game here. There are some new mechanics, which we'll get into a little bit later, but my first impressions overall, honestly, were I was excited to jump into this. It's been a few months since I've played any Assassin's Creed, so being able to get in on this DLC and kind of explore this new storyline, which was my big hook for the other DLCs and the original story, was just the storyline overall. I kind of get hooked on the characters. I really enjoy Eivor's quest. In this one, we're taking the boots of Havi or Odin because we're going into Valka's hut, doing a bit of a vision quest style thing, and now we're headed into this dream world where this entire DLC takes place. So you're starting off in Odin's shoes here, and you're on your way to try to save your captured son Baldur. He's been captured by this giant fire monster Sutor and his daughter Sinmara, and the idea here is you're going to use the help of the dwarves from Svartalheim, the world you are now in this dream state, and you're going to try to help these dwarves out and let them help you try to get your son back from Sutor. And let me tell you, you run into Sutor right at the beginning of this storyline, and you have to battle him, and let me tell you, it's not easy. They make it fairly difficult. They don't give you a whole lot in on that. It is kind of that first boss battle when you first jump in. Maybe I'm shaking a little bit of rust off because it's been a few months since I played. Let me tell you, it challenged me right off the hop.
It's been too long since you and I crossed blades. Then let's make this the final.
So as with the base game and the other DLCs, we are getting some more skill tree nodes. And let me tell you, as far as RPG games are concerned, this is actually one of the larger skill trees I've ever seen in a game. I thought the original game had a big skill tree, and then every DLC seems to be adding more and more nodes to the 3 main trees that you use. So I kind of like that. It does add a kind of another element into the game. You keep increasing your power level as you go through. But honestly, this isn't actually the biggest, newest mechanic here when it comes to this DLC. We're actually getting Hugar Rip abilities, which is something that you use throughout the game. You kind of been gifted a bracelet or a bracer from the dwarves, and allows you to harness the power of the Muspels to be able to kind of traverse this new world that you're in, because there's lava flows and all different kinds of things in this world that you can't normally traverse. So having this bracer allows you to use the Muspel energy to do all different kinds of things. Well, whether it's portal, you can actually use it to disguise yourself as a Muspel so you can kind of travel throughout within them and not be detected. You can also just use it to allow yourself to basically throw a Muspel feed on, and you can walk on the lava. Like, these are cool mechanics that the original game didn't have, but they do still feel similar enough to the mechanics already in the game to make it feel comfortable to pick up some of these new techniques and abilities. One thing I'm going to give Ubisoft credit on this one is the fact that Svartalheim, the world that we're exploring here, is beautiful. Every DLC, even the main game, the environments is always something that's caught my eye. They've done such a good job at making you feel so immersed in these worlds. And this DLC is no different. You're going to be helping the dwarves out. You're going to be fighting Muspels. Yes, there is kind of that mythological feel to it. You are a little more disconnected than from the European storylines that you play throughout this game in the DLCs. But honestly, this environment was just so awesome to be a part of and be in and explore. They did such a good job here. And if I had to kind of sum this all up, is I did enjoy my time in AC Valhalla, Dawn of Ragnarok. But if you've played a ton of this game like I have, you know you're 120 plus hours in already. This is a lot of the same. Some of the missions feel the same, even with the Huger Rip abilities. It doesn't change the game up enough for me to really make it feel fresh and new. So if this is your first DLC, it may be worth the $50 to jump in and play this one. For me, if I've got to score this out of 10, I'm probably going to give it a 6, because just for me, it feels too much of the same. Some of the missions are the same. The world is beautiful. The abilities are cool. But again, it is just a lot of the same. New combat mechanics and a well-designed world will have you enjoying this more mythical version of Assassin's Creed. Similar mission styles to the main story and repetitive combat can make this 35-hour DLC seem long at times.
For death is at your heels, and you know not the hour it will find you.
Shinara! Damn you to hell!
Alright, so in Hunt Showdown, right now, we have an event, Trader's Moon, that is taking place. And it looks pretty awesome. We have some new legendary skins for a few different weapons, of course, and a spectacular and spooky looking legendary hunter that you will earn if you make it all the way to the end. So I highly recommend you hop back in Hunt Showdown or check out this game if you haven't already. They've updated this game a lot over the last year, and now that it's 60 frames per second on consoles, updated with some great graphics, I can say that this is a must play for everybody. Hunt Showdown, guys, check it out. Trader's Moon is on right now.
It's been a while since we've talked about Epic Games' Fortnite. I know I used to play that game a ton a couple of years ago, and you know what, things kind of just moved on. You start to play other games and you lose interest, and honestly, you just couldn't keep up with all the kids out there that were just awesome builders. It was really difficult to get, if you were starting to play the game casually, to stay competitive every time you jumped in, just because, you got people dedicating their time to cranking 90s in creative mode and then jumping into the Battle Royale and just building towers in front of you when you're running into people out there on the map. Well, we're on to Chapter 3, Season 2, and we're getting some things that people didn't expect from Epic Games. We're getting a no-build mode. That's right. Right now in Fortnite, there's no building. It's going to be coming back at some point, and players were wondering if this no-build mode was going to be sticking around. Well, there have been some leaks out on Twitter of some data miners finding some information within the game code suggesting that actually some of the tips on the loading screens have actually specifically said in modes that do not have building. So they're suggesting here that this no build mode is going to be its own separate mode outside of just the regular building battle royale. The nice thing is with this new season, we're getting a lot more mobility because we don't have that building aspect. So we're going to be able to sprint for a short period of time, mantle higher objects, jump higher. It's actually a really nice, refreshing change for Fortnite. It's brought a lot of, some of the bigger streamers back to the game. We're seeing Tim the Tatman, Nick Merckx, Ninjas jumping back in more full time. We're getting a lot more kind of popularity bringing back to the game because people are just having fun. They don't feel like they need to jump in and have to be, building masters to be able to get things done here. So the fact that we don't have to worry about building, you can just kind of worry about looting and shooting. It's kind of bringing this fast-paced action to the game, especially with all this added mobility. There's been a lot of changes to points of interest for this season. So if you haven't checked out Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 2 no building, you got to jump in and check it out.
With the increased popularity of more people trying out VR, Meta has just announced that they're introducing some new parental tools for their Quest headsets in the next few months, aimed at giving parents more control on what their teens see and do in VR. Meta says that starting in April, it will be expanding its headset pattern unlock system on Quest to go beyond the current one, and soon parents will be able to pattern unlock on specific apps, something that will allow for tighter control on what teens can access. Then months later, it will be introducing to teen accounts an automatic block on downloading or purchasing age-rated inappropriate apps in the Quest store. This is slated to come alongside a new set of parental supervision tools, which Meta says will include the ability to allow apps to go through on a case-to-case basis. Teens will also be able to link a parent to their account so they can directly send and receive override requests for individual apps. In the near future, parents will also be able to block link and air link to stop teens from bypassing content logs by using Quest to play PC VR content through Steam or the Rift store. Meta's VR is intended for kids 13 and over, and at the moment it lacks a lot of parental control such as you would see on consoles such as PlayStation or Xbox.
Alright, well, is Destiny the Witch Queen the best Destiny DLC we have ever seen? Find out here.
It seems they have another target. What are they aiming at? Savathun.
Well, Destiny 2, what a hot topic. This came out not too long ago, right around the time Elden Ring and Horizon Forbidden West came out and blew the world by surprise. And, well, a lot of the hardcore Destiny fans seem to have been very interested to hop in this one. And this is proven by over 1 million people pre-ordering this game. So for myself, I'm an experienced Destiny player. I might have missed Beyond Light, but before that I played almost every season of Destiny 2 and all of Destiny 1. So I've been around for thousands of hours of Destiny. So, having missed Beyond Light and all the DLC after that, hopping into the Witch Queen, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that not much has changed. Outside of a strange issue where I just couldn't load into the game, I couldn't load into the mission, it just kept bringing me back to orbit after the cutscene. Outside of that small issue, I was able to get into the campaign right away. And honestly, I'm quite impressed in some ways with the campaign. We have roughly 8 missions that are anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour long, each backed and filled with cutscenes, giving this campaign more of a story than we've had in all of Destiny's history. And of course, it looks beautiful. Bungie has mastered the art of their universe, making every single DLC and planet that you explore unique in its own way. And in this case, this remains true. But the first mission, I'm playing co-op, and my first objective is go to the first area, kill some hive, and repeat. My following objective, kill a hive, collect its dropped item, and repeat 5 times. This is the same thing I've seen for almost 8 years at this point. And by the end of the hour-long mission, I had one mechanic introduced, which, yes, was kind of cool. I killed this little mini-boss, and I had to seek out its ghost and destroy it with my fist. And I guess that's a huge part of this campaign, is that the Witch Queen has arrived and is somehow yielding the power from the Traveler, and has all these ghosts and guardians at her fingertips and using them against you. So that's again where this campaign kind of, in my opinion, does stand out from others. But from a returning player's standpoint, it's a lot of the same thing I've done already. And talking to players who are less familiar with the lore, that are hopping into this game, they have no idea what's gone on up until this point. And the New Game Plus, I mean, it's still very confusing and doesn't seem to bring a true beginner's experience that Destiny deserves. And here's the kicker. In 3 years from now, this fantastic campaign that we have access to is going to be vaulted, because that's their trend and has been for the last couple years or so. Every content that we get is vaulted over a 3-year period of time. And this is what's really drawn me away from Destiny. Yeah, I might not play all the campaign missions over and over again, but if I were to, bring a couple of my friends back or bring them into this game for the first time, it would be great to play through the Red War or the Forsaken campaign, but none of this is available. And this ultimately just turns my score down. The Crucible has not seen a new map for over 900 days. We're talking about somewhere between 2.5 to 3 years where we've had no content added to the Crucible. This is a feature that I and my brothers and my friends all used to play every now and then. We'd go through our strikes and then always kind of go back to Clash or Control. But with the absence of new maps and just the lack of care and balancing of PvP, with Stasis especially really ruining things back in the day, and now Void 4.0, I'm sure that's even destroyed PvP even more. Now, I of course did not grind my way through to the raid, but I did check it out and it looks like a fantastic time. And from sources that I trust, I know that this new raid does offer a great experience for people who are seeking that still, maybe somehow, after all these years. And Gambit, it's in an awful place as well. You can tell that it's been neglected over the last year and a half, 2 years. They've done minor updates, but truthfully, it's very imbalanced. And this just drives me to believe that in the next huge update, we might not even have Gambit anymore. It will be vaulted as well. So, what does Bungie do right? Well, their shooting mechanics are next to none. Their weapons are next to none. The exotics this time maybe aren't as exciting as prior seasons, but still, Bungie offers something that not a lot of other shooters do. So how do I score this then? The game that is very heavily monetized still asks for $100 with this season and for you to buy future season passes. This game where instead of you having a level, you have just a level over your head that's your season pass level, that kind of grosses me out. A campaign that really doesn't offer anything new for returning players like myself. I don't know, guys. This game, Bungie, Destiny, you gotta do something different. I think Destiny 3 needs to happen, and with that, some huge changes, because I cannot go back to Destiny and sit in a circle while a counter goes up and kill waves of Hive or waves of Fallen, waves of the same thing that I've killed for the last 8 years. Because that's another thing too, the last DLC that I played, I was very excited to find out what these black pyramids that were floating in the sky that finally came to our solar system. Well, just to find out that it wasn't a new species, but it was something to do with the Hive or something strange. As soon as I found out it wasn't a new species, I was out. And hopping into this, well, again, nothing's changed, guys. So my score for Destiny 2, The Witch Queen, it's got to get a 6. While Bungie offers fantastic shooting mechanics in a Mastercraft lore-filled universe, it all comes with a bit of a bitter, all too familiar taste. The lack of new mechanics and care in PvP is all weighted down by the heavy vaulting system that hurts this game. The Witch Queen may offer something cool to explore, but trying to convince a new or returning player to the world of Destiny is like getting blood from a stone.
You're strong. That was too easy.
It did seem too easy, didn't it?
Scott, we have an interesting topic today. I'm talking about a game that I've followed and really had high hopes for. We're talking about Hood, Outlaws and Legends. Sumo Castle just had a Q&A go up and it was live, and I was questioning the future of this game, and I'm definitely interested in your thoughts, and I'm going to give you the rundown of what's going on. We're now getting into season 3. Season 2 is coming to an end, I believe, shortly. Here's the thing. A lot of us jumped in right away, and then a lot of us bailed due to the lack of content. And I want to talk about, what they could have done to turn this around, and will they turn this around in the long run? Will we continue to see Hood, Outlaws, and Legends survive, or will it disappear, kind of like Battlefield 2042?
Yeah, that one's still kicking, so there is hope yet.
Absolutely, right? And it kind of has one of those things. So when this game launched, a lot of us were into it and we're having a great time. A lot of good things came around. It has this unique experience. It's 4 versus 4. You all have to go run to the chest, grab this chest, bring it to a wench, and then hoist it over the wall, and the winner, it gets the most amount of gold to be able to do that, right? Dude, that's a cool premise. brought me back to the days like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, the multiplayer side of things, right? When we got that first edition of the multiplayer in the world of Assassin's Creed, and I was really, really pumped and excited for it to see where that would go. Now, rest in peace, Assassin's Creed multiplayer. Weird.
Yeah,
We'll never
that's
see
just
that
over
one.
with, I guess.
Yeah, that one is done, right? So here's the thing. Hood Outlaws and Legends launched with a few maps, which I thought were fantastic. I think the maps don't need any adjustment whatsoever. We're actually, I think, at a good spot now with Sumo Castle that they don't even need to introduce another map. What they do need to bring to the table, though, when they launched, we had 4 outlaws to work with. That was it. 4. Yeah, just 4.
And they're all different classes too, right? So it's not just different colors swaps of each other. That would be really way worse. But you don't have 2 different archers to choose from. There's only one.
No, you have Robin, and that's it. Or you got Little John, right? Like there's just they have merry men of Robin Hood. That was the whole premise behind this game. Is you were out there as Robin Hood, right, and kind of robbing from the rich and giving back to the poor. Dude, what a concept to bring that into a video game. Here's the problem. It launched with 4 outlaws. That's it. Dude, we got into season 1, right? 4 outlaws. So you go, you get XP, and then you grind to get different colors of your outfits. Like there wasn't that hook to pull you in, right? The gameplay was fun. The gameplay is awesome, but there wasn't enough. Okay, what's my goal here to achieve to make me want to keep coming back? What's that grind gonna happen for? And you can get different colors of your gear. Like that was it. And then
is that the only customization that's offered? Just color swap?
Pretty much. And that was the biggest issue, right? And I question what the future now holds as we get into end of season 2. Season 1 brought in a new outlaw. How do we pronounce her name, Scott? Samhain? Something, I believe.
Oh, I've heard it said as Samhain.
Okay, so a new outlaw is out there, right? But for everybody who tailed off, it's hard to then pull them back in. There's very little marketing, if any at all. How are you going to get people ready for season 3? So watching the Q&A, right? I'm now curious, what's the future look like for Hood, Outlaws, and Legends? We watched the Q&A, you watched the Q&A, and what did you take away from that Q&A, Scott?
Well, it wasn't exactly bustling with excitement. It had a little bit of a damper on the feeling in general, and it's really unfortunate because you specifically, you thought maybe this is where we're going to get some answers, we're going to have some, a new spark has kind of relit, here's our plan, our roadmap, but there really wasn't much spoken of at all in terms of roadmap.
No, exactly. What they touched on, though, was getting questions from the Discord. Dude, I went to the website. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to jump into the Discord. I can't find the Discord. Dude, the Discord is not even on their website. I'm like, how are you going to build a community when people can't even find you? That's one of the other things, right? No marketing behind the game. No way to join the community because you don't know how to find them, which is just bizarre to me. And it's so disappointing. We played this game as a team. We all jumped on. We all had a great time. We would play this for a while. Man, I was really loving the concept of this game and hoping for the future. But when it came out so dry and bare bones, going into this Q&A, I'm like, okay, here we go. We're gonna get some answers. We're gonna find out what's happening. What's the future look like for Hood, Outlaws, and Legends, Scott? And like you said, dude, it looks dire. Because when the questions came up, what's the future plans? What are we gonna get for new Outlaws? Well, it all depends on season 3. It all depends on season 3. We'll have to see how season 3 goes. I'm like, this is not sounding very good, right? There's a lot of red flags, dude. Just boop, 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 red flags popping up everywhere on this game.
Well, season 3 might be able to save it, but they're not really hyping season 3 in a very substantial way at all. It could have been even just battle pass kind of being added to the game, which I'm sure there's some form of battle pass.
There is a battle pass.
I had to guess.
Yes,
but it's just, we've seen that work out in 2 different ways. You could get kind of the lackluster Halo battle pass where you get some cat ears or something awful, or you have something like Siege where you have the battle pass that drops a lot of different cosmetics, but it's not just color swaps. So then you at least get to play with the characters that you do have. But like Siege, I think that only works if you have 50 operators. How many operators are there now?
Well, man, we're well over 50, right? Like that's the thing. Their goal for Siege is to be at 100 operators before they're done.
That's insane.
That is insane, right? But the biggest problem is Hood dropped with 4 outlaws. That's it. And like, okay, so we were listening to Q&A. Dude, they had 9 design concepts for their Outlaws. They should have launched with at least 8. Dude, 8 should have been at the table on day 1. They keep going, okay, cool. I've done Robin. I'm done with Robin. I'm done with Little John. I want to move into somebody else. You can't, right? Like, you really couldn't do much. They didn't have crossplay. Or they had crossplay, but the community was so small.
You couldn't.
You had to. Here's the problem, right? If you play as Robin, you're almost like holding a gun in a sense because it's a bow and arrow. So if you fight on console, if you're playing on console and you're fighting somebody on PC, who do you think's going to win? 9 times out of 10, the PC guy is going to take you out, right? The PC player, it has the quicker ability, maneuverability to get ahead of you. I turned off crossplay. Dude, I could not find a match whatsoever to get into. Had to turn it back on. Had to play with PC. I don't want to play with PC. Season 3 is going to bring over crossplay invite so I can finally play with my brother who's on PlayStation. I'm on Xbox. We can finally play together. They had crossplay at launch, Scott, but you couldn't invite anybody on the other consoles to get in. Like crap. Like I'm
it sounds like the pool might have been small enough that you might have actually bumped into them.
No,
but I don't know how I don't know who come up with the decision to put crossplay in but not invite. That almost defeats the purpose for me. Unless I can choose, I'm part of the console war and I want to shoot specifically PlayStation players, but that's just silly. Why?
Yeah. No Man's Sky was able to turn things around, right? I think this is where I have a little bit of hope left within me. Can they turn this game around? Can they bring the hype back to this? We talked about Siege, right? Siege drops every new season with another operator. Dude, when they drop another battle pass, it comes with another operator. Why are we going into season 2, season 3 without another outlaw is mind-blowing. If we get season 3, dude, without another outlaw and you just get a battle pass, that makes no sense at all to be able to keep the longevity of this game alive. Nobody's getting hyped just to get new colors. A lot of the battle pass has a couple different cosmetic turnarounds for your characters, for your outlaws, and then so you'll get like a different jacket, say, right? And then you'll get 3 colors of that jacket. It's just like, no. Putting a different color on it doesn't make me excited to stick around to get into that game at all. Dude, the core concept is there, but we need to have, at this point, dude, we need 10 outlaws. Like, you need that variation in there to go, how do you counterbalance that? They're talking about, here's the thing too, Scott, they're talking about competitive play within this, which got me really excited, right? They're talking about the replay system. They're talking about how we can be able to kind of cast this. You can bring this game to an esports level. I don't have a doubt in my mind that is possible. I do have a doubt in my mind that it's going to actually happen because of the community is not there. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's really such a shame because that game had a great premise. It still does, and there's possibility, but it just has not hit the mark at all.
Unfortunately,
a swing and a miss.
Unfortunately, it does look like Hood Outlaws and Legends is a swing and a miss. As much as I love this game, it doesn't sound like it's going to survive. Let us know at InsideTheGame.ca. Are you playing this one?
A wicked fast first-person platformer? You don't see that very often. We're taking a look at Ghostrunner and the Hel DLC, and, well, this is quite a unique title. It has a huge amount of speed behind it, but there is a lot of combat as well. It starts you off as this Ghostrunner. You're a bit of an older machine used to establish a new bastion of humanity in what seems to be a very high-tech kind of cyberpunk dystopia. You are on a road to redemption and revenge against an entity that turned and tried to discard you. You're hopping these huge distances, you're wall running. Sometimes it gets into insane level of challenge, but that's exactly the kind of game that I appreciate nowadays. I want to be tested, and this will test you. There are certain levels, certain segments where you can pass without doing any sort of combat. You can avoid doing any casualties at all, but that is kind of an extra level of challenge, and it won't last forever. You do have to eliminate all enemies in certain areas to progress, and that can get frustrating, but again, it adds to that challenge. And if you want to be good at this game, you have to factor in that combat while you're going around at light speed. It's important to note that the katana combat is almost all that you do in terms of combat. Some of the enemies in this game can be super annoying. You have kind of just a low-level grunt runs at you with a big pipe wrench or something. You have these kind of characters with just a simple pistol, a laser kind of submachine gun. Those can get very annoying because they can hit you from a distance. And you have the ability to parry with your sword, and if you can perfectly time that parry, you'll send the bullet back at the enemy. But again, these are massively advanced skills. It'll take you towards the end of the game before you start to master that ability. There's other enemies on the field that do this kind of ring attack in all 360 degrees, and that can be very annoying. There are these enemy ninja that you have to parry their attack in order to open up the hole in their defense to hit them back. So there's a lot of these kind of complicated steps when you meet certain enemies. But that's not incredibly difficult. You'll get used to learning what enemies are where and just how to dispatch them, no problem at all. Until you get to some boss fights. There are some insane, ridiculous boss fights. There are some where you kind of begin the fight and you go, okay, I sort of see what's going on here. Here's an opening. Here's a glowing piece on the enemy that I can swipe with the sword. And that kind of comes together just fine. But then you get other fights, and the name of the fight is escaping me, but it's in the Hel DLC. And this guy, I had to take a couple walks around the block trying to fight this guy. I think I got it on my 3rd or 4th sitting, but I died an amazing amount of times. Lending to the replayability of this game, you are able to go back and retry certain levels. And when you hit the end of the game, you can activate a New Game Plus. Adds a whole lot more difficulty, more enemies, and that seems a little bit too much for me. Although I'm somewhat of an expert now on this game, it was grueling to get past some of these choke points, and oh man, do you die a lot. But again, replayability, you can go back through these levels. It shows how many times you've died on your latest attempt and your best attempt. It shows the time that you took to blast through that level. So there's a lot of different options to kind of make your focus. Do I want to speedrun? Do I want to die 0 times? And both of those are very difficult endeavors. But you will have fun if you enjoy some challenge. The Hel DLC doesn't add a whole lot in the imagination category. You are playing as another kind of Ghostrunner enemy. I say enemy because you meet this character as an enemy during the main game. So I thought that was interesting. It opens up a lot to the story. You learn kind of the intricate details about who is, taking this city, who is your main antagonist when you play through the main story. It's all kind of brought to light through more of exposition through the DLC. And that's just fine. But it does have that same gameplay loop. You're going to be platforming around a huge amount of enemies, dispatching them as carefully as you can, fighting the boss fights, and eventually, getting through that game as quick as possible. It didn't really change up too much in terms of gameplay abilities. You're not fighting much differently. The jump kind of behaves a little differently. And the dash, again, you can kind of pause time and throw out a beam attack. And that was really the main change that I found in the DLC. But otherwise, it fits in just well with the main game, and ooh, it's good. If it's not obvious by now, I really had a good time with the combat in this game. As frustrating as it was, you get that triumph when you break through. The boss fights were, in my opinion, a little bit too hard, but again, it's part of the challenge. It's what makes this game unique and really interesting. The platforming sections, almost platforming boss fights, I find those much more interesting than a traditional boss fight, but again, really hard. You get through that though, and it gives you that wave of euphoria that other games have given you in the past. The story is very interesting, although you're not inundated with text. There's great voice acting, so it's not ever in the way of the experience. There's a huge amount of replayability here, a lot of challenge to the game. It really makes you kind of guess, is this the best I could do? Could I go through it again? Is it worth going through again, or am I just gonna be hitting my head against a wall for an hour? Some of these levels can get quite long. I really appreciate where this game is. If I'm gonna put a score on this one, this is almost the perfect package for me. And I know that's a bit subjective, but objectively looking at this game, I think it has all the hallmarks of a very solid experience, and it knows exactly what it is. It never takes a sidestep into something weird. It follows just enough of a story to keep you going. I appreciate this game a lot. This is a 9.5 for me. I really truly believe this game is about as good as it can get. Ghostrunner is a masterful challenge of combat and platforming, supported by beautiful visuals and a dark story.
Resist him, not me. I should have taken your hand.
Over the last couple months in Fallout 76, we've had a couple huge quality of life improvements that I absolutely need to share with you. So, starting things off, on Xbox, if you just press X on the corpse, you can have access to all the nearby corpses within roughly a 30-foot radius. This saves you so much time, especially during daily ops when there's those pesky missions with all those enemies all over the place. Well, now you can simply just loot a few bodies within the entire map and clear it all very easily. And what also is great about this shared loot system is that now you get experience from enemies you don't even attack. You just have to be close to them. This was a major problem for many years in Fallout. High-level players would just roll through an area and leave low-level players high and dry. But now, if you're close to enemies that are getting gunned down, you get a percentage of the experience, and it's fairly modest. Now, the second major improvement is the fact that you don't have to shoot a legendary enemy to access its loot. Finally, if you're within, it's even a further radius, like a 50-foot radius from a nearby legendary enemy that's killed, you still get that legendary item that is dropped from that enemy. This is huge because a lot of people were impatient and have very powerful weapons. It would just kill the enemies instantly. It would leave some of the lower and higher level players high and dry. Alright, well, I hope this helps you out. Make sure that you don't loot each individual body now, because you can just click a few buttons and have access to all those enemies. And another thing, make sure that if you missed that legendary and don't get the chance to shoot him, well, you still get his loot.
That'll wrap up this week's episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. And if you want to see more content from ITG, all you have to do is go to insidethegame.ca or check us out on YouTube at ITG Reviews. Until next week, everybody, thanks again, and we'll see you inside the game.